right, so just to kind of go through those again, these are some sample answers that you might have kind of come up with. So based off this example, number one, you're being asked to believe that watching television is associated with aggressive behavior later in life. Now notice I'm not saying causes. We don't necessarily know which one comes first, but you're being asked to believe that there is definitely a relationship between the two. Number two, the evidence that they show you is that there is this association. In this sample of 707 individuals, they show you that individuals who spent more time watching TV showed more aggressive acts. So that's the evidence, the data they're offering to you. Number three, maybe there's some other factors that they hadn't considered. So right now we're looking just at TV watching, but as I'm sure you can imagine, there's a variety of things that could lead to aggression. Maybe they had, low parental involvement growing up. Maybe their parents were pretty aggressive to them. Maybe they just had more life difficulty that led them to kind of harden and have this aggressive kind of demeanor. There's a variety of things outside of just TV watching that could lead to this, or that could explain this relationship. What other evidence would you need to evaluate? Similar to what we were kind of just talking about. So additional info on these people, more than just TV. Things like their socioeconomic status, what their home life is like, maybe even their GPA, their intelligence scores, their emotional scores, those kind of things. And lastly, the most reasonable conclusions. So it seems to be that TV viewing and aggression happen to be related here, but there's likely more to the story. Maybe there's something else that relates to them too. Maybe it's a weaker relation here. It could be stronger with something else. This is just a small piece of the picture, is basically the thing I want you to take away. All right, so that wraps up what science kind of is and how psychology fits in. And now we're going to move on to the meat of this lecture, which is the scientific method. Okay, so you've all probably heard this phrase, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But like how seriously have you thought about this saying? We're going to think probably more critically about this saying today than you probably ever have. One of my favorite memes, I enjoyed this greatly, finding this for this lecture. We all think about this metaphorically, but maybe perhaps throwing apples at doctors is the thing that we're supposed to be doing for health. Who knows? So we're going to ask ourselves, does an apple a day actually keep the doctor away? We're going to use the scientific method to answer this question. So the scientific method, as I'm sure maybe you guys were exposed to in your earliest science classes in elementary school or junior high, involves these kind of main sections. And you'll notice it's kind of like hourglass shaped. So your things like your phenomenon, your theory, which we're going to go into more in depth in a second, but they're very broad concepts. And as you narrow down to your particular research study, it's very specific, and then you can draw conclusions back out again. So it's this hourglass shape. And we're going to go through one by one and explain these different concepts. Starting off with phenomenon. So what this is asking you is, what's this general thing that we're trying to explain? And why is that important? So for instance, in our example here, this idiom, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, is that actually true? That's what we're looking into. And this could be important because it might influence health decisions. If we find out that this is something that actually does hold true in real life, maybe we all are going to eat apples every day. Who knows? So it holds some importance for our health and just general understanding of apples, I suppose. So for instance, what you're asking yourself basically with this, once you kind of have your main research idea in general, is, does that actually happen? Does an apple day actually keep a doctor away? Now, once you have that idea, we're going to move on to theory. Theory is basically asking, how do I predict that it's working? How would an apple a day actually keep the doctor away? So we're going to develop a theory. Pause if you want to think about this. What way might that work? If this was true, if an apple a day does keep the doctor away, why? Perhaps it's because eating an apple is healthy for you and it keeps you healthy. And if you stay healthy, you're going to visit the doctor less. So this could be kind of the mechanism by which it works, where apple is this metaphor for good health. and that leads you to being more healthy and visiting the doctor less frequently. Okay, so once we've kind of established a mindset or a mechanism of why this might occur, now we're going to be a little bit more specific and actually make a hypothesis or a prediction of what we think is going to happen if this idiom is true. And the way this happens, or the format that this takes, is an if-then statement. So if A happens, then B will happen. That's our prediction. So for this, what do you predict will happen in a study of whether or not an apple a day keeps the doctor away? So again, pause here if you'd like. Think about that. I'll show you the example that I have. So we might perhaps say that if someone eats an apple a day, then they will not see a doctor as frequently. That feels pretty straightforward. You could come up with a variety of if-then statements, but it's kind of just making a prediction of what you think will happen given this phenomenon in theory.